Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Powerhouse Podcast. I cannot tell you how thrilled I am and delighted to have my guest who is joining me today, Christine Powers, in the ring to go a few rounds. And before we even get started to talk about why she's so amazing, why I'm so absolutely thrilled that she's here, let me just say, hello, Christine, welcome. I am so happy to have you on the show.
Candy, I am really happy to be here too, and I will go rounds with you any day.
I love it. We are already going to go deep, people. And as you know, this is our space to really have the big, courageous, connected conversation. It is all about how leadership is a choice. It's a choice in how you choose to show up, how you choose to serve others, and how you choose to take personal responsibility. And this is our opportunity to have those deep, meaningful, rich, juicy conversations. We don't like the surface stuff. We want to get into something that's actually real and going to have some significant impact on you as you are trying to create explosive growth in your life and business. So before we get started, let me tell you about the amazing powerhouse who is joining us today. Christine Powers is a cathedral of sound. And let me tell you, I have heard this woman. She has the most amazing voice that gives me chills every time I hear her sing. She is a dynamic soprano who offers her music to open and heal hearts. Christina is the founder of 7 Billion Voices, One Heart movement. She has a gifted voice beyond singing as a writer and as a poet, metaphysical mountain climber, love that, energy healing practitioner and presenter on topics like purpose and power, expansion through sound, and thriving after catastrophic loss. Many of us seek to fill an unnamed emptiness, yet succeed only in creating more strife and success. Christine is an activator, and you will see that very quickly for those longing to truly know and free themselves. With deep wisdom realized through the fires of her own transformation, she offers her music, workshops, and adventure retreats as gifts of awakening. Christine lives in the Adirondack Mountains in New York, and she currently is envisioning the creation of a tiny house, momentary micro community, and spiritual adventure camp on her 100 mountain acres. Oh my goodness. I told you, I get chills just even playing in space with her. Christine, so thrilled to have you here. Again, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be here.
So talk about this idea of using sound as an activator and how your journey got you to this point to truly be this, I love how you say that, cathedral of sound and activator in terms of helping people truly free themselves. What does that mean and how did you get here?
Well, first of all, the most healing tool there is on the planet is the human voice. So we are using it every day in a healing capacity without even realizing it. Every time we tell someone we love them, every time let's say you stub a toe and you scream, you're actually healing yourself.
Because I let out a lot of things and some pretty explicit language when I do that.
A little bit of an expletive with it, but it's actually a release of energy, and it distracts you from the pain, and it has an impact on your nervous system, and it's actually healing. This is why we do it. So we are so unconscious of the power of our voice because it's right under our nose. It's always been there, right? It's in our field of obviousness. So it's been obvious to me as well. I would say my first solo performance, other than standing on the fireplace and holding up the cords that open and close screens. Well, we had like this big square knob on the end, so that was my microphone. When I was a little kid, I'd stand on the fireplace. That was my stage, and I would sing. But my first real solo was second grade, and people cried. Why would they cry? I was singing Frosty the Snowman. Why would people cry? But ever since I was a little girl, when I sing, people cry. And they have an experience. And their body has an experience. And they do get chills and things happen. And it took me decades to really put that together. That it wasn't, oh God, I'm the most beautiful soprano on the planet. It's that there is an openness and a soulfulness and my essence is open, wide open when I sing. It can't be any other way for me. And that actually means that I had a pretty twisty road with many ups and downs, because when I realized this vulnerability, there were many times that it was very painful. Yeah. So what I've learned along the way.
I love that you say that, because that's actually part of what I want to dig in with you a little bit, because I have gotten to know you over the years, and I will say I'm one of those people that absolutely cries, not only gets chills. You feel that essence, but that twistiness that you're talking about, how has that been challenging for you, or been those moments of opportunities when you realized that you had this essence that could touch people at that level? Where was some of the fear? Where was some of maybe the, I don't want to stand in that, or I don't know how to stand in that? And how did you really step into the space where you are really purposefully stepping out and using this as a tool to not only connect with others, but guide them through their own journey as well?
All right. Multi-part question. Here we go. You know, I don't think I was conscious of any fear, probably until I got really knocked off my horse. And that was in college. I never had to work for it, ever. I would walk into a space and have a voice that was more powerful, more melodious, more beautiful than any adult, any child, anyone who was in that space. And I grew a shield, because many people didn't appreciate that. And I felt the hate early on as well, and the jealousy. But I think the first time I really encountered an issue, I went off to college, to Northwestern University for theater. And that was huge. You know, one of the best theater schools in the country, big scholarship. I had zero foundation, because I had never been disciplined. I had never been repetitive in building, right? So when the chips are down and things get tough, you have something to fall back on. So I had nothing to fall back on but an ego that I had grown and a big shield of protection. Right. So I ended up dropping out of Northwestern. I couldn't even hack it. I took a semester off, and then I reapplied, went back to college. This time I went to Notre Dame, which was a better fit. Same thing. I auditioned for the most prestigious choir they had, and as a freshman I was rising through the ranks, and we went on tour, and I had solos in front of 1,000 people in all these different cities. I never even thought about it. And then I got kicked out. Because again, I thought I was above everybody else, and I had a lot of fear underneath that I really wasn't conscious of. And I skipped a major performance with the South Bend Symphony. I just skipped it. And I got called out on it, because I was out at a party. You know, when you're 19 and in college, you don't make very good decisions. You know, and after that, there was this fear that crept in, because I had so much of my identity twisted in and around this power and this presence and this specialness, and I was better than. And having not worked for it, I really crashed. And so it was in my 20s. Candy, I did not sing for a decade.
Wow. God, that gives me chills even thinking about you not singing.
I know. And who suffered? I did. Right. Not because I, you know, one of the things that I say is the greatest gift you can give the world is the self-permission to be who you really are. And I was stuffing it. And so I suffered. And then I think alternatively, those around me suffered, because it is a gift, and I wasn't sharing it. Right. So this energy got really twisted on itself, and I had nowhere to go. So those are some pretty dark days, dark days. And then I spent another decade untangling the story around everything.
Yeah.
the story.
Well, and
And
talk about a humbling journey, right? I mean, and I think sometimes we forget because we think everybody struggles from the get-go when some of us have. And I mean, I even remember similarly in school, school to me was like, In fact, I got to the point where I was so bored because I was like, I'm not learning anything. Even as young as I always had bigger questions and I felt like they were teaching. And so I can relate to that sense of feeling like you were above a level. And I remember going to engineering school and it leveling me. I remember getting an F on I've never seen an F in my entire life. And I remember seeing an F on my first research report for physics, I believe it was. And I almost quit school that moment. I'm like, what? I don't know what to do because I never engaged or taught myself a process to get through. And engineering school for me, even while I graduated from it, was one of the hardest things I ever did because it was a different type of learning. And I was against people who literally still had that gift of being able to just show up, sleep through class and get an A. And I had to kill myself to get a B when before everything was so easy when it came. I didn't struggle through school. I didn't understand how people couldn't just, it was so easy. And so I think there's so much power in that humbling journey that lays you flat on your ass sometimes and says, wow, get over yourself. You have a gift. And I would love to dig into a little bit your kind of opening and awareness around the responsibility you have in that gift. Because I think there's that humility that happens and that vulnerability. And then I think there's okay, you kind of shut down the gift. And then when you reopen it, recognizing that there's truly a responsibility in how you choose to step forward in that gift. And I'd love to explore more around what some of those turning points were for you, some of those spaces when you didn't sing for a whole decade and then found yourself unwinding it for a decade. What were some of those big, and to use your words, those activator moments or those catalyst moments that said, ooh, this is how I get to choose to show up in this space?
Yeah. You know, what I heard from you when you were speaking about the engineering is, I think we shared some similar qualities at that time in our life, right? I realized somewhere in my 20s that it was going to take me a long time for my EQ, my emotional intelligence, to catch up with my intellect. Like my intellect was really far ahead of the rest of me, and it caused a lot of problems. And what I realized, you know, going through it, and now especially retroactively, is I didn't have any emotional resilience. And underneath the ego and the arrogance was this incredible lack of self-worth and this fear of being called out for, you know, at some level being a fraud, right? And that goes exactly back to the fact that I never had a foundation to fall back on. So I have spent a good portion of my adult life bringing into balance and harmonizing, right, all those aspects that I am, you know. And now I would say I actually took myself away to a spiritual retreat. I was 30 and by that point, singing felt so unsafe that I wasn't even sure I could do it. But it's really emotional to think about it. But I did. I remember I sang Summertime, and in a little mountain retreat in the Berkshires of Massachusetts with, you know, just a few people on a Saturday night. And boy, that was like being reborn. I was being reborn. And then the journey progressed from there. And the singing has been it's inseparable from my spiritual journey, right? And what I've come to understand is being a leader and a spiritual teacher, which I really prefer support or guide, is that the work is not to fill and fill and fill, to empty, 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 empty. And so I would say in many ways, I've reached this place of freedom from myself, freedom from what others think, and I'm able to show up just simply as me. And The reality is I'm not technically a fantastic singer. And yes, my voice is it's kind of a big cosmic joke. It's like the coyote archetype. My gift is opera, like big opera, Puccini and Verdi and but I wanted to be on Broadway. I didn't want to do opera. So, there's this whole thing about this. And what I realize now is I can sing anything I want. I can sing anything I want in any style I want, because what I do is I show up and I just love, and I tell a story. And it comes through me. It's not me. I'm the vessel. And so I've learned this in so many ways, so that now when I'm singing from this place of joy and emptiness. And I have no agenda. I'm not trying to heal anybody. I'm not trying to fix the world. I'm not trying to fix myself. But this is significant work. And that relates back to the metaphysical mountain climber, right? And so the singing has, because I've let go of so much and I allow to be what wants to be, it's exponentially more powerful, and people are really moved. People are moved, and I'm moved, and it's great joy and bliss.
And I mean, that's so incredibly beautiful. And one of the things that we talk about a lot on this show, and I talk a lot about with my clients, is this idea of leading from love with love. And you so beautifully defined that and laid out that space. It's that space of having that freedom from yourself and what you think you're supposed to do. And, even to your, the cosmic joke around, I'm an opera singer who wanted to be on Broadway. And so many times we fight with what we think we're supposed to do versus what's wide open and available to us to step into, to be exactly what you said, that vessel of love, that vessel of, I get people that'll say, Candy, repeat what you just said in a talk. And I'm like, I have no idea. Because if I'm in that moment of pure joy and pure love, whatever comes through me, not from me, but through me, is whatever you need to experience. And sometimes I actually hear it and I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? I don't even use words like that. Man, somebody write that down. That was awesome. And I'll have that moment. Or it's whatever that audience needs to experience, and you get to be that person, to be that channel, that vessel. And I think that idea of allowing a full surrender to say, I own and take responsibility for my gifts. I stand in a space to be in pure joy, freedom from myself, freedom from what others think, and allow myself to stand in that place to truly lead from love, with no agenda, with no restrictions, with no shoulding that we do all over ourselves, but truly to just stand in a place to be of pure joy. Oh, what a beautiful, delicious space of opportunity and possibility. And, I don't think enough people dare to dance there.
Well, no.
Right? But I know it took me a long time to get here.
Oh my gosh.
I get people, because you get the haters and even like, well, that must be nice, right? And my response is, actually, it really is. I invite you to try it on. I invite you to join me. Take all that energy of jealousy and hating and not understanding and come join me in the dance.
I bet, I have a question for you. And I bet, so when I first started teaching, and even when I first started doing concerts, right, the corollary goes across the board, right? I bet we had outlines and we had it scripted. I didn't know what I'm going to say, and God help us if we deviate, right? Oh God, and
the control, right? You need the control.
And everybody starts there. And now, it's the same thing. Like, I will offer a workshop or a retreat, and there's this to me, the most powerful prerequisite of being a really fantastic leader at this point and support is allowing that randomness to come in, and being in the energy of what wants to be said, what wants to be created, what the group actually needs might be totally different than what you advertise, totally different than what they're aware of. Yet if you follow what I call the little golden illuminated breadcrumbs, right? If you follow those illuminated breadcrumbs, you will arrive at the perfect destination. But it requires so much trust and trust in yourself. And so for anybody listening to this, I've been there, I've totally been there, starting with the big skirt. I even, and so you said, right, how to dance there. I have to tell you, I've been really fortunate, and probably the greatest fortune of my life was when I lost everything I owned in a catastrophic fire. This was less than 2 years ago, and it freed me even more. I mean, talk about freedom. It freed me from stuff, but it freed me. I was in such a place of grace and holding to literally be starting again with nothing was the greatest gift I've ever had, because when I looked at the horizon, I saw nothing but potential. Nothing but the potentiality of new creation. And I didn't miss the stuff. I didn't fear like we were going to be homeless. We lived in a tent for 11 weeks, but that's a different story. And I also had a freedom because life broke all the rules. So I had a complete paradigm shift. I didn't feel bound in any way to play along. Screw you. Done. Right? And what's interesting, going back to the singing, is when I, the same way with those big, outlines and notes, I would carefully script my concerts, and it had to be perfect. And I had to have, amazing makeup and opera gowns. I had like 10 opera gowns. I lost all of it in the fire. And 3 weeks after the fire, I was invited to sing in Montreal at the conference center for about 700 people. And I didn't have any clothes. I had a little peasant dress and sandals, and that's what I sang in. Candy, I didn't care. It didn't matter to me. I didn't have to show up like dressed to the nines to fill in some gap. It was just this pure offering from my heart. And so, it's gotten so simple, so simple as time goes by. And in a way, that's how I can tell that I'm just continuing to empty and be free, and more of me. It's a paradox.
Yeah.
The less of me means there's more of me to show up,
right.
But it's the big M me. The I am.
Yes.
Not the personality. It's the big presence that this soul carries.
Yeah. And imagine, and we talk a lot about imagine the possibilities, right? And imagine the possibilities in that, Christine. First of all, there's this whole freeing of, and there is a place where all of us need to have that kind of F you, screw you mentality of, I'm tired of being put in the box of what I think I'm supposed to be. And that includes our little M me, which is that ego-driven space that says, I have to be, this is what success looks like. This is and I love that you use the analogy of, the fire being one of your biggest blessings, and standing in the space to be wide open to show up and say, look, I have a peasant dress and some sandals, and it's not about what I wear. Because and Brene Brown's one of my favorite people in the world.
Yeah.
And she says, there's companies, and I've gotten in the same space as well. I am who I am. I am not a fancy person. Now, don't get me wrong. There's times I like to dress up, but I'm kind of Texas suits me well, right? I'm a laid back boots and jeans, flowy shirt kind of girl. I just like things simple. And there was such a construct in leaving that corporate space of, it's suited up, it's conservative, it's this space. And I remember her saying once, she's like, you know what, if you don't want me showing up in my clogs and my jeans, then don't hire me. I show up as who I am. It's not about what I look like and the box around me and the pretense of what everybody thinks we're supposed to do that fits a certain norm, versus I'm going to be wide open and show you my heart. And it doesn't matter what frock I have on to show up in that space. And I think there's just this freeing space when you're like, look, I am me on a much higher plane of, I'm connected into my higher source of being. And I love your phrase, Christine. Oh my gosh, I'm so salivating over the phrase of the little illuminated breadcrumbs that we get. And I think about that path that opens up to us, right? And we so many times keep thinking it has to come through the door in a gold wrapper, red bow, and it's served on a silver platter. When many times the silver platter looks like the newspaper that the bird crapped all over, that you got to be willing to pull back the layers to see that the gift is so much richer and more meaningful and meatier than you could imagine if you're willing to look at something bigger than just yourself and that shoulding that you're placing all over. So I love how much you just really talked about stepping into that higher sense of self and that higher sense of purpose that says, look, it's not about me having the beautiful costume. Those are nice and they're fun and they serve a purpose. It's more about me showing up to offer the gift, which is of my heart and of that joy and of that love. And oh, that's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's just such a richness. And, there's this big wide open space to say, now there's all these possibilities. And I know as we've had conversations and I'm even talking about some of what you're playing in, there's some big possibilities that now are opening up for you. Talk a little bit about what's exciting you right now and what's like got you moving into that big kind of unknown, sometimes maybe a little scary, but more like the butterfly, exciting, holy cow, I can't believe I get to step into this space kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I like the way you introduced it. Holy cow, I can't believe I get to step into this space. So just last night, I had a little ceremony with myself, and I took the global movement, 7 billion voices, one heart, and I kissed it and I put it on the shelf because
I love that.
There's no energy. There's nothing going on. And again, am I going to control this or am I going to allow? What's going on is the philosopher's camp. And I think one of my greatest passions of this lifetime is that I have this gift of what I call the call to congregation. And to create these beautiful holding containers. And as much as I love to be in front of the room, I love just as much to be in the back of the room and just take in some beautiful event or connection happening or people meeting each other and light bulbs going off and hearts opening and just kind of quietly being, the mother nurturer behind the scenes.
Okay, your sound went out.
Back.
There you go. Say that again,
I've been really experiencing how intense things are for all of us on the planet. And for those of us who are committed to transformation, higher consciousness, a better world, a better place, and leading from our hearts and leading with our wisdom and being vulnerable and going all in, that there is a powerful need for rejuvenation and rest and cross-pollination with one another in this safe container. So from the moment I stepped on this property, I've had this vision that in its highest expression, this land would be the holding container for thought leaders to come and do just that, and to be just like you in, cowboy boots, and we're going to ride quads, and we're going to get muddy, and we are going to have a rugged physicality to the experience because it takes you out of everything, and you have to work for it. You have to work for your comfort, and you're going to sleep in a tent, and you're going to do profound work, and you're going to laugh, and you're going to be with other amazing people, and you're going to go even deeper within yourself to discover the elder wisdom you carry and the resilience that you have and the energy that you have, and you're going to walk away with new relationships and a fabric, something you can trust, something you can sink into. So where this generated from was that unconsciously I was channeling the philosopher's camp. And guess what? That happened in 1858 here in the Adirondacks with the transcendentalists, the poets, the artists, Thoreau, Stillman. They spent a whole summer in the Adirondacks doing just that. Hello?
Yeah. Well, my God, channel the transcendentalist. They're like my absolute, I have always felt, in fact, I used to get made fun of in college where one of my dean of academics would say, even in engineering school, my favorite class was American literature. He's like, I think there's something off. I'm like, I know. He's like, you have this rose-colored way of looking through, you know, the glasses. He goes, what is it with you and Emerson and Thoreau? I'm like, oh, they're my spiritual teachers. They have so found a way to connect back into the natural element of what is around us. Oh, and so I love this idea of the Philosophers Camp and, you know, calling the congregation together, right? This call to the congregation. And I know there's a lot coming around this. And even when this show airs, we're going to have more information and things that we can share with everybody about how to get involved. But Christine, we're going to have you come back, because I mean, I'm already watching. I'm like, oh my God, we're coming up on time. And how did this happen so quickly? But I'm curious, as you talk about this call to the calling the congregation. Oh, how powerful. And I literally can feel Emerson and Thoreau and the forefathers who we get to stand on the shoulders of these giants, right? I can feel them being channeled through you in this call to the work that you're being asked to do. How can people engage with you to find out more? As I know, I'm like, tell me when, because I so want to be there. It's just everything in my body is like, oh, to experience this journey, that those that just truly fill my heart and are just so that awakening of your soul. How do they find out more? How do they get in touch with you, Christine?
Yeah, so we're building a Facebook on community, Philosophers Camp, and there's a website, philosopherscamp.com, and then there's christinepowers.com. I love connecting with people and being in relationships. So, you know, I would invite anyone who's listening to this, and this is a big invite because time is so precious to us. But I would be happy to have a virtual chat and invite anyone to just go to the contact and fill in a form, and they can reach me. And any ideas, any questions, anything burning, any feedback, I would be delighted to engage with anybody. So those two websites. We will
have all of that information in the notes for the show, because I really highly encourage you that if you're listening, Christine, and you're feeling like you're having an out-of-body experience like I am right now, and you're like, oh my God, sign me up. First of all, I just absolutely adore Christine. I love everything she's about. I cannot be in her energy enough. We actually got to play with, you know, a month or so ago in a mastermind ourselves. And I just so love every time I get to connect with her and engage with her, and things just magically and beautifully open up. So if you're feeling that and you're feeling that energy, I highly encourage you to take her gracious offer to connect with her one-on-one and to have some conversation with her. She is magnificent. She is powerful. She is beautiful. She is vulnerable. And I am just so grateful and honored that she is here sharing a piece of her heart with me and with all of you. And Christine, just love you so much.
I love you too. And let me just say that I don't make that offer very often.
I know,
but this is because of you.
Oh.
Because I wanted to know, you know, what can I do to serve you in your leadership because you are amazing. People probably aren't going to want to listen to us for the next 3 minutes talking about how much we love each other.
Hey, more people need to do that, right? No, right? We could actually have a 3-hour love fest just on that. And so, yes. And thank you so much for that, because I know that, and that means a tremendous amount to me. And Christine, as we're kind of closing things up, first of all, I would love to have you come back. I really want to keep playing in this space around what you're opening up, this whole call for the congregation to join you, this Philosophers Camp, which I think is going to be so just rich and meaty and powerful, and can't wait to see what unfolds in that space. And just because I love you and want you back on the show. So I would love to invite you to come back and join us. I also would love, there's so many juicy nuggets that you shared, these pieces that people can walk away from. But if you were to bring it all together and there was something that you wanted to share as kind of a last takeaway, a last, aha for people, what might that be?
Girl, every voice, no matter what it sounds like, no matter what it sounds like or what it's saying, right, is exquisitely beautiful.
That is beautiful. And I love that. And I can feel you, and you're going to make me cry. I love that. And I want everyone listening to let those words just wash over you. Regardless of the sounds you think comes out of your voice, every single one of you has an exquisite voice. And I want you to find that opportunity to truly say yes to yourself, to own your voice, and know that you have beautiful and brilliant and exquisite gifts to share with others. And it's interesting, and I love, because for those of you that have known me for a long time, you know that I tell people that the meaning of life is all about, we have a song to sing that is ours and ours alone. And the challenge or the opportunity or the invitation is, are you willing to stand in that song and sing it loudly and proudly for the world to hear? And so with that, I'm gonna leave you with that, as that was such a beautiful way for Christine to close things out, is to invite you to stand in your exquisite voice, to invite you to say yes to yourself, and invite you to sing the song that is yours to sing. And I want to just extend my most heartfelt, deepest, soulful gratitude for my sister here, Christine Powers, who is just a light, a beacon, a vessel, and just truly one of the most beautiful souls I know. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for sharing who you are and your beautiful and just magnificent light with all of us. Thank you. And for the rest of you, thank you for joining us today. I hope you're feeling a deep sense of love. I hope you're starting to feel that stirring inside. And I hope you truly will take the invitation to sing your song. With that, this is Candy. We'll catch up with you next time. Make it a powerful, purposeful, and passionate day. We love you. Talk to you guys next time.